Welcome to episode 87 of Sport SA Daily Diary. Today we're chatting to South Africa's most decorated karate champion, Morgan Moss. Morgan, good afternoon, mate. How are you doing today?
I'm all right. Thanks yourself, Adam.
Yeah, good, thank you. It looks like from behind you, you're in your dojo, but it's empty. I suppose it's been like that for the whole of lockdown.
That's correct. Unfortunately, it's empty. Usually, something like this wouldn't be able to take place if we weren't in lockdown because it would be jam-packed. I'd be working with my athletes, or I would be training. But at least it's the only place I feel sane or safe at the moment. So I had to come and do it over here.
Oh well, it's a brilliant backdrop, and it works well for the interview. Morgan, so you are a karate expert. I'm no expert, so if I get some of the technical terms wrong, please do forgive me. But you're obviously a fourth Dan black belt, and we'll get onto your records, which really speak for themselves. But take us back to Morgan of young. When did you first get into karate, and what made you get into karate?
Okay, well, I was quite lucky in the fact that my dad was quite a good karateka in his younger days, and naturally, he was always helping me and showing me things. And from the age of 2, 3, 4 years old, he was teaching me as much as he could. And when I was 6 years old, he said, "Right, I think it's time. You're ready for a karate club." And we went to a whole bunch of different clubs over a couple of weeks, and he eventually found the one that he said would suit me the best. And there was that. And he said, "Right, my boy, go for it." So I initially started training with my first instructor, Sensei Aubrey Peterson. But it was really only after my Sensei Shay Jagger, who took over the club, it was only then that I really started to find a deep passion for karate. And, my sensei at the time showed so much interest, and he had so much passion that, I could resonate with that, and it changed my whole outlook. And that's pretty much when I started to train the way I did.
And Morgan, obviously karate is a very disciplined sport. Did that sort of level of discipline carry out into the rest of your life in terms of who you were as a person?
I think in the earlier years it didn't, because you're still trying to find yourself. But definitely the higher the level I got in karate and the more I understood what it was about, it definitely helped me. It helped me into my high school years, into my university years, and definitely into business. I mean, the amount of flack you get from parents and clients, and if you don't have that discipline, then you're not going to be successful. So I definitely think that if I hadn't done karate, I wouldn't be as disciplined as I am. Of course, I'm human like everyone else, so there are those moments where we lose that discipline, and that's natural.
Well, obviously no one messed with you at school because you were just sort them out one time, huh?
Yeah, I was quite blessed that people stayed out of my way at school, but I don't think that was because of the karate. I just think in general, I've tried to avoid situations like that most of my life.
And tell me, Morgan, when did you realize that you were actually pretty damn good at this and you could make a career out of this?
To be honest, I always wanted to teach. I always wanted to work with kids and that type of thing with regards to karate. It was probably only once I actually got to university, my first year university, that's when I pretty much said, okay, I'm done with playing schoolboy rugby and schoolboy cricket and the different sports. And I went 100% into karate. And that extra time that I found myself having, I put that into my training. And that was pretty much when I realized, hold on, I've actually got something here. And it was probably from my first year university onwards that I actually started to achieve all the major achievements that I did. Up until then, I learned how to lose. That's always what I tell my kids.
Well, I suppose it's a good lesson to learn. There's nothing wrong with being able to accept loss. Morgan, you've obviously had some amazing achievements, and we'll get on to those shortly. But maybe you can just start by taking us through the different types of karate, because I believe there are different sort of disciplines in terms of the karate itself. It's not just sort of one discipline.
That is correct. Look, ultimately, there are different types of karate. I'm a Gorjuru practitioner. I'm a member of Seiwakai Gorjuru International under Kyoshi Ben Marie. I'm a very proud Gorjuru practitioner, I might add. Obviously, you've got Shotokan, you've got Shitaru, you've got Wadaru. What's quite important to note is if we take the differences away, from a competitive point of view, all competition is the same. All karate compete under the same rules, actually. So the International Olympic Committee recognizes the World Karate Federation, and the World Karate Federation obviously recognizes Karate South Africa, and the rules that we compete under. Doesn't matter if we're a Goju practitioner or a Shitaru practitioner or a Shotokan practitioner, we have to compete under the same rules. So from a traditional point of view, there's definitely some fundamental differences, but from a competitive point of view, there's none. There's definitely not.
So is it just more the learning techniques and the style than the actual discipline itself?
That, from a traditional point of view, it's definitely the fundamental principles. So as a Goju practitioner, we focus a lot on our circular type of techniques. If you take a really big, strong guy attacking a lady, for example, for a lady to block someone with a really strong arm, it's going to take a lot out of that lady. Whereas if she redirects that movement with a circular type of blocking system, she's got a big chance of blocking that movement now. So that is one big fundamental difference between our style and one or two of the other styles. And obviously there are many other, but again, what is important to note is it actually doesn't matter what style of karate you do. If you have a good instructor, you train well, you know your tools, you will be okay. Definitely. A lot of people like to play up the styles against each other, and it's definitely not the case. A good Shotokan guy is really good. A good Goju guy is really good. That is also important to note. So if there are parents out there wondering what style should their child do, whatever works for that child, whichever instructor works for that child, there has to be that connection. Only then will they go that next step.
And Morgan, in terms of competing and the sport itself, how much contact is there? Because a lot of people think, oh, I'm not going to go do karate because I'm going to get beaten up. But that's obviously, it's not the case. So tell us a bit about the contact elements of karate, the sport.
Look, when it comes to the traditional aspect of our karate, of course, the contact is going to vary as we get older, as our belt becomes higher. If you are grading for your black belt, for example, the level of contact is so much more than what the average person could take. But you must remember, you've trained for years, you are conditioned, you're able to handle that. From a competition standpoint, obviously very controlled in the kids, and it builds itself up. But also, the better the karateka is, the better control and the better distancing and timing that they have. So, I mean, you can go and fight against some of the top fighters in the world in competition karate and walk out there unharmed. Whereas you go into the dojo and train against the white belt and you come out with a big blue eye because of that control factor. And it's quite amazing to see the level of control that some of these guys have. And you think, well, he's punching air, he won't be able to do damage. And then that same guy goes and punches a makiwara, which is like a punching plank, and you say you never want to be hit by that guy. So that's quite an important element in our karate.
And sort of, Dan, Morgan, onto your personal achievements. When did you first represent South Africa?
Well, I was quite fortunate as a 13-year-old. I represented South Africa in Hungary at the then Santa Claus Cup, obviously as a youngster. But my first real break came when I was 17 years old. I represented the South African junior side at the Junior World Championships in Turkey, Istanbul. And that was pretty much, where I started going from there. The year after, I represented the senior side in Benin at the African Championships, Scotland at the Commonwealth, where I won my first Commonwealth, Japan at the World Championships. So that was pretty much where it started for me in my national team road.
And I mean, you've certainly racked up the honors. You've been world champion from the Premier League champs. You've been world champions 4 times. You've been Commonwealth champions 7 times. African champ, student champ, Zone 6 champ. And I mean, I could go on. You've been South African champ 13 years in a row. I mean, that's a pretty incredible record. So would you say you are undoubtedly the #1 karate athlete in the country and probably in Africa?
Definitely not in Africa. I think in Africa there are some amazing athletes. I mean, if you take the North Africans, they have martial arts universities where they are training all day, every day around their education. We've got some Africans that are also multiple world champions. But going back to your answer, I think there's always going to be someone better than you. I think that my records will definitely be broken one day. At this point in time, I know my record is number one. I know that it's right up there. But, there are so many legends from the past, and there's going to be so many legends after me also. But yeah, it's been amazing. I've really been blessed.
And do you feel you get the recognition that you deserve in terms of the accolades that you've collected over your time?
From family and friends, definitely. From my students in my club, definitely. From the National Federation, I think sometimes, yes. In the recent past, we definitely have been getting more recognition under the leadership of the KSAP President, Sunny Pillay. We are definitely getting much more recognition now than we did way back then. Of course, it would be wonderful to have the same recognition as our top rugby and cricket and soccer players, but we know that that's not going to happen in South Africa, and that's okay. But, I never really did what I did for other people. I always did it for myself, and I always tried to improve every day. And I was just lucky that as I was training, I happened to get those results one by one.
I mean, your father must be incredibly proud of you from taking you or showing you a few karate moves at the age of 2, then taking you to your first gym at 6. I mean, he must be one of these dads that walks around with his head like this, telling all of his mates how amazing his son is.
Yeah, my brother, in fact, is also a world Gurju champion, and we both won our first world title on the same day. And my dad was in the stands to see that, and he often says, not every day that both your boys become world champion. And he always says if he's walking around with my brother and I with him, that he's the safest guy around. Both my brother and I think that it's actually the other way around. We with him, we safe, But yeah, he's incredibly proud. And, if it wasn't for him, my mother, my step-parents, my instructors, I definitely wouldn't be where I am today.
And Morgan, you've competed around the world. Obviously, as mentioned.
Adam, sorry to interrupt. I just want to quickly put on charge. Do you mind?
Sure. Sorry. No problem.
Sorry,
man. So as we were chatting about, you've been champion around the world, Commonwealth champion many times as well. Where do the toughest karate opponents come from? Is there a specific country? Obviously, I mean, the East has to be considered, or is it just there's very good people from everywhere?
Look, since karate became an Olympic sport, the level of karate out there in the world is just unbelievable. 10 years ago, you could look at your draw sheet and you'd be like, I'm going to fight Japan. I'm going to fight the French, the Egyptians, and you knew it was going to be an impossible fight. Today, you don't even look at the draw anymore. It doesn't matter where the guys are coming from. With technology, with traveling, everyone doing camps together, it's really taken karate to the next level. And look, there are definitely some teams that are still a little bit above the others. Turkey springs to mind. Turkey have got an amazing program. The Egyptians, the Moroccans, the Japanese, of course, the French, the Italians are really good. There's a lot of good countries around in the world. Europe is obviously very strong. That is normal. Iran, believe it or not, Iran have just set a record. I think they've won the team title 3 years in a row, or 3 times in a row, which hasn't been done in the WKF's history. So there's very, very good teams out there.
And I know it's probably a bit of a long shot and a tough question to ask, but is there someone, a specific opponent that you've faced in your career that's been the toughest and you thought, oh, jeepers, this guy's bloody good?
Yeah, I can definitely say. He's an Egyptian named Hani Keshta. He's the one athlete, unfortunately, I was never able to beat. He was my first African Championship final. It was a decimation, if I'm honest, But I fought him once or twice after that, and it was really, really close. In the 2010 World Championship, we actually fought to a draw, and then we had an additional minute to settle matters. and I was actually in the lead with 10 seconds to go, and he put me on the line again. So, but he was definitely the one athlete that I just battled to overcome. Although I always enjoyed my matches with him. Today he's one of the Egyptian coaches. We did a training session online with him 2 weeks ago, in fact. So we've kept a good friendship, off the floor, but on the floor it was definitely a rivalry.
So there is a high level of respect between competitors. There's no, like,
Definitely.
where you go into boxing and there's all this slang talking and all of that. There's none of that in karate. It's very much a respectful sort of opposition.
Definitely. It's the way of karate people. It should be the way of karate people. We are taught, we have our principles that we try and follow, be humble and polite, not be too proud or modest, those type of things. So, of course, not everyone is able to follow, those guidelines that we try and teach in the art of karate. But, you definitely don't have guys before a match talking, trash about each other and things like that. Yeah, maybe in their homes or in their dojos about someone. That's different,
Yeah.
But when the guys are finished, their matches, there's always a nice bow, a hug, an embrace. The guys are always very respectful. And it's something that karate teaches us from white belt. You say thank you for working with someone. It's important.
And Morgan, you were due to obviously go to the Olympics now in 2020. That's obviously been pushed out to 2022. I presume there's no change in that, and you will still be representing South Africa in Tokyo?
Well, actually, the Olympic selection for karate is not finalized yet. So I was actually not 100% sure whether I would be going or not. For me, I would have still had to have participated in the final Olympic qualification event. And should that have gone in my favor, then yes, I would have booked my ticket to Tokyo. This was always supposed to be my last year as an athlete. I felt that I've had a really long career, a good career. I've got so many great athletes coming up that I feel deserve my attention. Although my partner and I are sitting and we're discussing, should I maybe just, push up a little bit longer until Tokyo next year and see how things go. So I'm leaning towards it, but we'll see how things go.
I think you absolutely have to. I think the games in Tokyo is going to be second to none, and it would be great to have you and representing South Africa there, no doubt.
Yeah, thank you.
Just in closing, Morgan, you're now the head coach of the national children's team. That must be a great honor in itself as well, and an opportunity for you to pass on your years of knowledge.
That's correct. Well, I have to, of course, thank the technical team of Karate South Africa, Shiam Brando Pillay, the technical convener, the director of coaching, Michael Roots, the president, Anshi Sunny Pillay. They obviously see something. I do believe that is where it starts, is with the children, giving them that foundation, being able to pass them on to the junior and the senior head coaches. Maybe one day have the opportunity to work with them at a junior and a senior level. Of course, that's a long-term goal. But I do think that from a club point of view, we've had some really good international children's results in the last couple of years. We've had a couple of WKF Youth League medals, which is fantastic. So yeah, I'm hoping to get going. Obviously, this was announced just before COVID-19. So I can't wait to get hold of the youngsters and start working with them going forward.
And tell us, sorry, just one more in closing. How's it been through COVID? Have you been able to continue with any element of training? Obviously, you mentioned you did it over Zoom with your Egyptian counterpart, but has it been a daily sort of program?
Look, I think, to be honest with you, the first three weeks of COVID, I myself was in quite a low place. You have so many hopes, you have so many dreams. Had karate not become an Olympic sport in 2020, I'm more than likely, after I won the World Premier League in 2016, would have said, that's it, I'm done. I've achieved the biggest result in my career. It's time. Obviously pushing that extra 4 years and knowing when COVID came that, yes, what's going to happen to Tokyo? Are we going to go to our Olympic qualifier in May? I was not in a good space, to be honest. But, luckily, the karate world, pretty much got together and started training online. I started giving Zoom classes to my students. I've been I've been giving Zoom classes every day, 5-6 hours a day, working with my guys. And
Sorry, we lost you there for a minute. Morgan, it's been brilliant chatting to you today on Sport SA Daily Diary. Thank you so much for your time. It's actually been a great honor and fantastic to interview somebody of your stature from another sport. Mate, you have to go to the Olympics next year. I think it's something you would regret for the rest of your life if you didn't. And you got to know the whole country will be behind you.
Yeah, hopefully there'll be more South Africans that will join me. Hopefully I qualify. But thank you so much for the chat. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Take care, mate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Be sure not to miss tomorrow's episode of Sport SA Daily Diary, where we chat to a man who sailed an 8-foot children's Optimist dinghy around the Cape of Storms.